Hey guys, how you doing? So there are many things in this world that actually help us become the person that we are and the person that we want to be as well. So there are parents, there are schools, the friends we surround ourselves with, and there are also books. Books actually help us become a new person. Each day when you read a book, whether you like it or not, your perceptions of the world actually change. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you some of my top favorite books ever that I enjoyed, that I've carried with me. Basically, in 10 years time, I moved like probably 8 times, which is quite a lot, right? And I've always taken them with me, and I'm also going to be sharing with you some of the books that I've been reading recently and that I've been very much enjoying. Alright, so the first book that I love, and that was like a real big eye-opener when I started reading it in 2007, that's The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. That's like a classic today, but it wasn't a classic when I was reading it in 2007. In fact, I was telling my boss then about this book, because I used to be working in a networking company in London, and I was telling him about the book and how it's amazing to free yourself from the 9-to-5 rat race and this and that, and he thought it was just crazy. In fact, he said it was rubbish, with like an Irish accent. So yeah, I mean, Tim, he focuses a lot on the 4 hours work week, but I actually think this book is more than just that. I mean, it's giving you amazing tools about productivity and time management, such as elimination. Elimination is amazing because a lot of us, we try to just like fill our time and look busy. And Tim Ferriss is saying the complete opposite. Just keep like the most important things to do, and everything else you can either delegate it, outsource it, get somebody else to do it for you, which is like an incredible type of advice, which I wasn't able to do from the beginning of my career, because at the beginning I wanted to sort of like be able to master every aspect of my business. But as the business actually grows, I'm actually seeing this elimination thing as an essential part of the business growth. Tim is also talking about automation, which is amazing. Like, automation is really something that I have experienced very early on. I remember on one weekend I went to Casablanca to visit my family, and I remember waking up and then seeing like in my inbox PayPal email, like, you've received a payment from this person, you've received a payment from another person. I was like, wow, this is actually working in 2008. It's working. I was organizing events. That was my first business ever. I was organizing events for personal development trainers, and we were doing workshops at different universities and so on, and I was selling tickets for people to attend these workshops. And yeah, they were paying through PayPal, and I was receiving it right in my inbox, you know, in the middle of Casablanca, and the event was happening in London. That's the amazing thing about this book. It's even more true now because we live it, but back then it was such a new thing that everybody was skeptic of it. Another thing that Tim Ferriss talks about is living the life of the new rich, meaning that you can allow yourself to have mini vacations, retreats whenever you want, and you can actually work from wherever you want. And that's actually hugely impacted my mind. In fact, ever since I read that book, I never ever wanted to work in an office. I did it for some time in my life in the last 10 years, but it was only for a short period of time. Like, I couldn't handle it. Working in an office from 9 to 5, it was just impossible for me. So I really think that the person I have become is really, for the most part, thanks to this book, because this book completely changed the way I see work, the way I think about work, and the way I work. Another book that was such an eye-opener is The Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I don't have the copy on me, but I will put a photo of it somewhere here. And that's such an amazing book in terms of money. So when I started reading this book, I was still like wondering how people actually make money, and even like with the salary, I would never be able to buy the things that I want or afford the life that I wanted. So I had so many questions about how to make money without necessarily being an employee, which I never ever wanted to be one. So when I read this book, the most important thing that I actually got out of it is the cash flow quadrant. And this is a huge thing. Like till today, I still go back to this quadrant and actually remind myself of where I am in which situation. So basically, Robert Kiyosaki talks about 4 kinds of people. You have the employees, basically people who work for, other businesses or other employers. And you have self-employed people, you have business owners and investors. The tricky thing is that a lot of people think that they are business owners when in fact they're not. They're just self-employed people. So for example, when I talk to somebody who tells me, all right, I actually have a graphic design business, and I ask him, how many guys are you in the business? And he says, well, I'm only me. Then I'm like, okay, well, sure. That's actually, according to Robert Kiyosaki's definition, that's not a business. A business to him is something that's running with or without you, even when you're actually sleeping. So this goes back to Tim Ferriss' definition as well, that you can make money while you sleep through automation. So it works perfectly in the e-commerce world. But this notion of being business owner is important because when you launch other types of businesses, this applies as well. So you can ask your question, can this business make money if I'm not there? And that's an interesting thing. I'm actually still working on this because my businesses are both based on services. So it's very difficult for me to step back and let my team do everything. But I'm hoping that one day I will get there. The book is also amazing about how to perceive money, how the rich think and how the poor think, and how actually they make decisions very differently. So it's just such an eye-opener if you're looking to get some skills and knowledge around money. I definitely recommend this book. My next book is a book by Tony Robbins, right? I've read it in French. It's Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins, and I actually bought many copies that I gave out to friends. If you're looking for a book that actually summarizes everything about personal development, then this one is for you. It's actually so good to read. I just love reading Tony Robbins because I love the language that he uses and how powerful his messages are. So this book, it's all about pushing your limitations and really abolish these barriers that there are between you and yourself, and how you can help yourself think big and think large, really outside of that small, tiny box. So he talks a lot about how we can control our thoughts to actually change the behavior. He talks also a lot about emotions. I love how he talks about when you change your emotion also changes. Just as an example, if you're slouched like this and with your head down, you're actually not feeling very confident. As soon as you stand up and get straight, you actually feel you have more confidence. And this is such a wonderful exercise that I love. And it's just one of the amazing exercises he has in the book. And I definitely highly recommend this book if you want to change the way you think, the way you behave to reach success in your life. Alright, so my next book is a book from Jack Canfield, and this is such an amazing book as well because it's actually a guide. It's a step-by-step sort of plan to help you get from where you are today to where you want to be. And I love that Jack Canfield has many activities throughout the book that you can actually do as you read. And by the end of the book, you should actually have a success plan for yourself. So many of us actually don't like to live in theory, right? So if you're looking for something that's actually going to help you do the exercises as you go, definitely The Success Principles by Jack Canfield is a really must-read book, and I still go back to it once in a while to check his tips and advice on the various issues and topics. Another book that I've read that I found very interesting in the way it's been written is Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I actually listened to this book and it was read by Elizabeth Gilbert herself. It was such nicely narrated. I just love it, and it was really music to my ears. So this book was all about courage, permission, persistence, trust, and creativity. Most of all, creativity, how to be creative, how to get creative, and how to unleash your creativity. So Elizabeth, in her book, she said that every one of us is created. It's just a matter of letting that creativity out. And it's an interesting topic because, to be honest, I don't have an opinion on this. I don't know if everyone is creative or not. I'm still sort of like formulating an opinion on this, but it's just the fact that we know that we can be creative actually help us be creative, whether in the sense of problem solving or creativity as an art, or even, creativity as an entrepreneur. Like, you need to be creative if you're an entrepreneur. You definitely need to come up with solutions. You need to come up with new offers. You need to come up with various things, activities, products to entertain your customers, or also to help them resolve their issues. So creativity sometimes is something overlooked, like we never teach it at school. I just wonder why on earth we don't teach these kind of things that can actually help our children, students to become better people, like in terms of like unleash what they have as a genius, as a gold mine. So there is a gold mine in each one of us. So if you're looking for a book about creativity and how to tap into it, definitely read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Alright, so now if you're looking for an autobiography, sort of like an account of somebody who's actually succeeded, I think this one was one of the best ones that I've read. Is Screw It, Let's Do It by Richard Branson. I've read it more than 10 years ago, and I think the stories he tells are really powerful because he started out of nothing, really, and especially with the story of the airline. I mean, he went from a problem, spotting a problem, to offering a solution. I mean, it could be very intimidating for us to start an airline, but he actually did it. But he didn't have any airline background in the past. He was just like a fierce entrepreneur. So if you're looking for stories, lessons about life and business, I definitely recommend this because he got this edge, this adventurous guy who has nothing to lose, although he had family when he started the business. But I feel like it's just give us hope to really be creative and really get out of our comfort zone. I mean, this is like the common thing of all entrepreneurs who write books. It's all about getting out of that box and getting out of the comfort zone. So recently I read a book by Brendon Burchard, and that's the High Performance Habits. And I think it was such a good book because it summarizes all the habits of the high performers, meaning things that they do on a daily basis to become and be the amazing people that they are. So see here, I've made notes everywhere because it's such a good book. I mean, you feel it's not empty, it's full of consistent and interesting information all throughout the book. So Brandon talks about clarity, energy, necessity, what else? Productivity, influence, and courage. These are the values and habits of the high achievers. And I think I don't want to give too much away because it's interesting for you to read it from the beginning. But to sum it up, it's really about the habits that you need to develop to go from here to here. And it's really, again, about getting out of the comfort zone, doing things that you've never done. It's about stretching yourself, stretching your limits to attain incredible things. Another read that I had recently that was completely life-changing, and I told you about it many times on Instagram, so make sure to follow the account on Instagram if you are not already. But it's the Sapiens by, can't remember his name, Yuval Noah Harari. So that's such an incredible book. This is like non-business, non-personal development related. But I felt really, after reading this, I was like, why on earth people are not spending enough time reading about history and reading about their past, and we spend so much time chasing the money, getting busy doing things that are not necessarily interesting, just wasting time. So after reading this book, you're like, you cannot live on planet Earth and die without really having a little small tiny idea of what happened before you lived on this planet. And I think this book actually sort of summarizes the history of the world pretty well. It's such a thick book, and not everyone is able to read this many pages. I, in fact, bought a copy for my mom. I don't know if she read it or not, but I'm sure it's like you have to be really, really interested in the topics to be able to go through all the pages. And I bought the physical book. I also bought the audiobook. And it took me a while to process all the data because some of the concepts, they were also new to me. I've read his second book, the one that came afterwards, which is Homo Deus, but it's not nearly as amazing as this one. So I highly recommend you all to take like 5-10 minutes a day to read this book or something similar that would actually help you open up your mind and understand the world better, whether when it comes to politics, nations, philosophies, languages, what else, religion, anything that comes to your mind has a answer. I'm not saying the answer, but it's an A answer that can actually help you see the world differently. Alright guys, so that's it for me today. I hope you found this video helpful. As you can imagine, I wasn't able to share all the books that I've read that I think were amazing, but probably in the future video I could do part 2 of it. I just didn't want to make it very long, but definitely let me know down below which of these books are you gonna be reading, and also what book has actually impacted your life. Write it down. I'd love to know. Also, please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't done so already. Stay in touch on social media, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!